tell them check out the blog, bro. YouTube channel called MKO. It's pugilism, boxing algorithm. M stand for Marvin and Kevin's initials KO. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the MKO Pugilism Boxing channel. We're talking all things boxing. Once again, we're back with another one. So right now, I'm just going to speak to you about Joe the Juggernaut Joyce versus Michael Wallisch, which just took place on another Frank Warren BT Sport card, which was in the BT Tower, I believe it was, like in their studio where they had this fight. So yeah, we're going to talk about Joyce's fight, and of course remember to subscribe to the channel, remember to like the video, and believe me, more content will be coming to YouTube screen near you. And yeah, so we'll get on with it now. So Joe Joyce, after several months out of the ring, obviously was scheduled to fight Daniel Dubois much sooner than this, but now it's rescheduled to October 24th. So this was a warm-up fight before the main event, and many people have certainly said negative things about his performance, and you know, I too thought that he looked very sort of rusty. He didn't really look all that sharp in this fight. The opening bell sounds and they sort of go to work, and you know, Joyce is one of these fighters that I think this might just be the way that he fights. I think looking at other bouts of his, you know, he seems to be quite vulnerable in the early rounds, in the early going, and then he sort of warms into the contest. But in this fight, there were a few concerning things, like the fact that he was taking several right hands in the first round. Of course, he was coming forward, he was pushing his man back and stuff, but he was, as is his practice, he's very sort of upright in his in his stance. His stance is very sort of upright, and he's very easy to hit, is Joe Joyce. He's tough as anything, but Joyce is actually very easy to hit, and this guy Wallisch in that first round was able to sort of land that right hand of his with high frequency, because Joyce was very open for it in the first round. He was like wide open for shots, and for my liking, in my view, I think Joe Joyce certainly took far too many shots in the first round. And as we know, if you've watched the broadcast, Daniel Dubois was of course watching on, and for me, I'd imagine Daniel Dubois will be sort of licking his lips at that. He'll be sort of looking forward to the fight even more now, having seen especially what happened in the first round, where Joyce was taking a lot of shots. And I think for me, I'd say that really and truly, he really shouldn't have been taking these shots. Those shots he was taking in the first round, clear, clean, crisp right hands by this guy Wallisch. And to be fair, we've got to sort of give credit to Wallisch, who put up the resistance, well, you know, as long as he could. So he was wailing away, and he done very well in round one. He might have even, I don't know if he took it really on the scorecards, but Wallisch was sort of landing cleanly and making himself known in round one. As we moved into round two, it became more of Joe Joyce's fight. Joyce began to press the attack, began to press him, using jabs to the body, you know, little hooks to the body. He did throw some good shots and did begin to sort of get on top and make Wallisch sag to the ropes. And yeah, in round two, he began to sort of beat the resistance out of Wallisch, because Wallisch, he was quite a game opponent, you know. He'd only sort of lost to a few decent guys. I mean, the names I can sort of remember is the key name is Tony Yoka, good prospect, Olympic fighter from France and that, and turned over pro. So he definitely he put up a bit of resistance, but with this guy Wallisch, you could tell that from the time there was a body shot, Joyce dropped him with right hand to the body, and he just sort of got that resistance beaten out of him. He didn't seem to want it anymore. You know, he was quite up for it in round 1, but when he started taking more of these lumps and more of these shots in round 2, you know, it just looked like, you know, the guy just didn't want it anymore. And you could tell by his facial expressions that his face kind of dropped, and he just kind of wasn't interested. He wasn't looking to, you know, you could tell that this guy Wallisch, you know, he didn't really have a plan B or anything like that. It was just, you know, he was trying to land his right hands, and you could see that once Joyce began to hurt him and really put it on him and really get through, you could tell this guy didn't want it. And then eventually he succumbed, you know, to a barrage of good shots by Joyce, head and body. And it's interesting with Joyce because it looks, you know, it's amazing because it looks like it's happening so slow. You know, he's quite a slow and cumbersome guy, but he's a guy that he's just like a perpetual motion machine. He just keeps coming. And on this particular opponent, as with all of his other opponents, I mean, he's fought some all right guys. I mean, he's fought what's his name, Bermain Stavern, you know, guys like that, Brian Jennings, and beat them guys. So yeah, he definitely showed a bit of class, but you know, victory comes in round 3. Nice body shot, head shot. I give him props for that, give him respect for that, but I think you know, for me now, I'm definitely more favoring Daniel Dubois. You know, Dubois is not the quickest of fighters, you know, but I think his coordination is better than Joyce's, and I fancy Dubois to sort of get to Joyce before Joyce gets to Dubois. I think you give Joyce still, you know, this performance kind of, you know, makes you want to favor Dubois, but I think Joyce still does have a chance, but I'd say he can't afford to be making the kind of mistakes he was making against Wallisch when he steps into the ring with Daniel Dubois. He's got to sort of tighten up defensively, because I'd say his defense is very, very leaky. It might have been the fact that he doesn't respect this guy as much as he's going to respect a guy like Dubois, but definitely he needs to, I would say he needs to tighten up the defense. He needs to not be so open to punches, especially in the early going, because Dubois might want to start fast against him, and you know, it could be lights out if he leaves himself open like that. But yeah, from this performance, we can't really learn much about Joyce. It's just a matter of, it wasn't the greatest performance. It wasn't really a good performance in my eyes, but at the same time, he got the knockout and he got the job done. And now we await Daniel Dubois, his next fight against his opponent, who's 7-0. I think slightly better pedigree than this guy Wallisch. Dubois' opponent, I think he's got a bit better pedigree. He might come with a bit more ambition, so we may have an interesting fight with Dubois and his next opponent. But yeah, on Joyce's end, it was quite poor, you know, from my perspective. But you know, he's got time now to work on his craft and hopefully tighten up before he fights Daniel Dubois, which I think that's going to definitely be an entertaining fight. And until next time, that's my thoughts on Joyce versus Wallisch. Well done to Joyce for getting the knockout victory, but I think there's a lot to work on there. And until next time, it's MKO Pugilism. We're over and out. Until the next one, see you soon.